Good evening and welcome to our Baines Council meeting today, Thursday, the 19th of March 2026. Just a reminder before we start, and just a warning actually, that the water cooler is leaking. So if you do go out the back door over there, please be aware of that. Right, Joe, can you read out the emergency evacuation procedure, please?
Yes, I can. Just bear with me, sorry. If the continuous alarm sounds, you must evacuate the building and proceed to the assembly point. From this room, you follow the green running person signs to the exit using either the marble staircase at the end of the building nearest to Bath Abbey or the main staircase. Please do not use the lifts. The assembly point for this building is in Orange Grove on the green outside Browns. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Are there any apologies for absence?
Yes, I've received apologies from councillors Sarah Evans, Ollie Henman, John Leach, Anne Morgan, Barrett Pancania, Dina Romero and June Player.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest, Joe?
None notified to me.
Are there any from the floor? Right, coming to the minutes, can I have a proposer that they are correct? Thank you, Matthew McCabe, Councillor Matthew McCabe, and a seconder. Okay, thank you, Karen Walker. We'll have a show of hands for those in favour. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Before we come to announcements from the Chair, I'd like to remind everyone to switch off to silent their mobile phones. You'll also need to log into a mic unit to be able to speak and vote, and turn it off when you've finished speaking. If the mic battery light is flashing, do not swap with another unit, as the camera is tracked to that councillor at that point. Just indicate to the operator and it can be very quickly changed. Also, the meeting is being webcast, and if anyone does not wish to be filmed, please can you make yourselves known to the camera operators. Karen Walker, is that loud enough? Good. And also, to remind all members of the public and councillors to treat each other with respect during the meeting. And as champion for children looked after, I would like to remind you of your responsibilities as corporate parents. You will, of course, be familiar with the responsibilities like education and safeguarding, but the big one, did you realise, is acting as a good, caring and ambitious parent. When a child enters care, we make 11 pledges, promises to them. So a video has been made by of the 11 promises that we actually make to them. Excuse me, am I recording okay? Okay. Okay, just to repeat a little bit of what I just said, we are going to show you a video to show you our responsibilities and to remind you of our responsibilities as corporate parents. We are responsible for the young people who are taken into care, and we give them 11 promises, 11 pledges for them on our behalf as corporate parents. Now, some of our children who are fostered have made a video, a 2-minute video, to show this, and they actually won an award for the video. Now, there are also other short video clips which will be accompanying the minutes, so you can look at these in a bit more detail in your own time. So we're now going to watch this video on our looked after children and, as corporate parents, the 11 promises that we make to them. Thanks.
The pledge is a promise to you about what you can expect from the adults who work in the local council while you're in care and after you leave care and start to live independently. These adults are called your corporate parents, and it is their job to take care of you. They are here to support you through your childhood, teen years and into adulthood. The pledge has 11 promises that cover all the important stuff, like who you are, your health, your education, where you live, your social worker, and the people who are special to you. You'll have a dedicated social worker who will check in with you at least every 6 weeks, depending on what's right for you. You will have your social worker's contact details, so you or your carer can reach them if you need to. They will ask you for your wishes and feelings and record it in your file, so that you are heard and action is taken to respond to these thoughts. The social work team will do their best to make sure you keep the same social worker, but if they are not available, somebody else from the team will be there for you. You'll have a care plan written specifically for you to make sure that everyone who works with you knows what you need to stay safe and happy whilst you're living in care. It will cover everything from your education, health and well-being, to your personal interests and how best to help you stay connected with the people who are important to you. You will have a copy of your care plan and it will be reviewed every 6 months to make sure it's always up to date. Don't forget, your social work team are here to support you. They understand that things might feel hard for you at times, and that's why these 11 promises exist. You can find out more about them here.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Just to say, the actual young people in care who actually made this video obtained an award for it, so they did very well. Thank you. Moving on to item 6, there is no urgent business by me. Now we're going on to item 7, and we're looking at our public speakers. Can I remind our public speakers that you can speak for 3 minutes, you may get questions from group leaders, and you will get a referral to the relevant cabinet member regarding the statement you've made. The first speaker I have is Penny Hay.
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Penny Hay. I'm Professor of Imagination at Bath University. I'm speaking today about the vital role that outdoor play has in supporting physical and mental health and well-being of children and young people in BAMES. Those moments when children's eyes light up because they're so engaged in playing and learning, following their fascinations. Play is fundamental to children's healthy development. Welcoming, safe public places to play are essential for every child. Extensive research shows that outdoor play strengthens children's physical health, emotional resilience and social development. Creative, cultural and nature-based activities also improve mental health, reduce stress and anxiety and build confidence. Yet outdoor play has declined by 50% in just one generation. This is happening alongside a growing crisis in young people's mental health, a profound change we can't afford to overlook. If we create better opportunities for children to play in real life, they'll likely spend less time online. Playing outside in nature is not an optional extra. It's a foundation for children's well-being and learning. The recent report, Everything to Play For, from the Centre for Young Lives, reminds us that play is how much of children's development takes place, how they understand the world, solve problems, build motor skills and stay healthy and happy. Enabling children to play outdoors is both a public health priority and a community priority. Outdoor play nurtures our imaginations, a vital human capacity, giving children the freedom to invent, explore and create their own possibilities in relationship with the natural world. Imagine if we co-created the conditions for curious, creative learners across generations. Our approach in Forest of Imagination is rights-based and child-led. We treat outdoor play as a core entitlement, placing children's voice and agency at the centre. Through creativity and ecological thinking, we transform spaces into welcoming, nature-rich and multi-sensory environments. This motion is asking for BAMES to take a first step forwards towards a thoughtful, coordinated cross-council approach to play, shaped by the voices of children and developed in partnership with local organisations. What we're asking for is simple: to ensure more children are playing outside more often in places that feel safe, welcoming and alive with possibility. We've already seen through Forest of Imagination and Playful Green Planet how creative, ecological, community-led experiences can transform public places and support children's well-being and connections with nature. This motion asks us to take this responsibility seriously and to act. By supporting it, councillors can ensure that Baines becomes a place where every child has the time, space and genuine freedom to play, explore and flourish. Thank you.
Thank you. Any factual questions from group leaders? No factual questions? Oh, Councillor Walker.
Refer to Councillor Heathcote, please.
Hello, and thank you for your statement. On your statement, you say, through creative and ecological thinking, we transform public spaces into welcoming, nature-rich, multi-sensory environments. How do you do that?
Well, there's probably 2 hours to answer that question, but if you'd like to visit Forest of Imagination this year on the 12th of June and onwards, then you'll see that in action. But the short answer is that together with the creative, cultural and educational community of Baines, we co-design a beautiful event that shines the light on not only children's imagination, but all of our collective imagination, and thinking together about the importance of outdoor play, nature-based learning, and the arts and culture in all our lives.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Adam Dukes.
Can I just say, Chair, Adam couldn't make it, so he's asked Alla Tchaikovsky to read that statement. Then it's Adam's statement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Alla Tchaikovsky. I am reading out Adam Duke's statement, as he unfortunately couldn't be here. Okay. I am Adam Dukes, a resident of Fairfield Park, and I am here today to offer my support for this Green Party motion on enabling outdoor play and community belonging across Bath and North East Somerset. My 8-year-old daughter attends St. Stephen's Primary School and benefits from play equipment close to the school in Richmond Green. She also benefits from parent community efforts to enable safer walking, cycling and playing spaces close to the school. She has also benefited from having a green space with play equipment close to where we live. We are fortunate to live on a no-through road. Low traffic levels on our road make the street environment safer and more pleasant for all residents. Ren and other children on Hampton View play together outside on the street, something I enjoyed in my childhood. Many families sit out on their front gardens, and children's play is often free-flowing between houses up and down the road. Higher traffic levels would likely mean my daughter would spend more time indoors and be less active. Outside St. Stephen's Primary School, parents, including myself, have organized play streets to create a safe, traffic-free environment outside the school for everyone. These enable children to pause and play before school and after. It enables parents and guardians to pause and chat, helping maintain community cohesion. We run them in June and most recently at the beginning of January. Despite the cooler, wetter weather, children played with skipping ropes and drew chalk pictures on the road. Parents and teachers at St. Stephen's are also preparing for the implementation of a school street. This is something we've asked the council to install, as we have seen the benefits of a safer environment at drop-off and pick-up by running these play streets. I support this motion. I don't believe that the access to the green space, play streets and play equipment that benefits from is available by all children in Bath and North East Somerset. I would welcome and champion work to understand this provision and its corresponding impacts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As our speaker is not Adam Dukes, I'm afraid she can't answer any factual questions, so thank you very much for standing in. Thank you. My next speaker is Dave Redgewell, but I don't think he's here. Councillor Moss, are you going to speak on his behalf?
No, well, I got an email from David earlier on this afternoon. He's actually in hospital this evening, and he's asked councillors to, he's asked me to make reference so that councillors look at his on statement that has been provided for us.
Thank you, that is noted. Councillor Guy. Indeed. As Baines Council and Baines councillors, we would like to send our very best today for a speedy recovery. Thank you for saying that, Councillor Guy. My next speaker is Gillian Ford.
I stand here tonight as a foster carer for Bath and North East Somerset, and quite frankly, I am appalled. Like many foster carers, I didn't hear about these proposals from the council. I heard them in whispers from fragments passed around our community. Once again, the very people you rely on to care for the most vulnerable children are invisible. That alone should worry you. Fostering does not happen in isolation. The support comes from the alternative care team, and these supervising social workers are vital. They are the people we rely on when things go wrong. They guide us through emergencies and the moments when we as foster carers are struggling ourselves. Throughout my time at fostering, I have never once felt unsupported by this team. They are invaluable. And now I hear that the council is proposing to strip away managers from that very team, the people who allow decisions to be made quickly, the people who enable social workers to do their jobs and support foster carers when no one else has time. And in doing so, you are not only weakening the service, you are pushing out some of the most experienced professionals in the system. Let me give you an example. Just before Christmas, I urgently needed signed documentation for a medical procedure for the child in my care. Most staff were on leave over Christmas, but because there was an ACT manager available, those decisions were still made. Without that support, their treatment would have been cancelled, their routine disrupted and their adoption process delayed. These are not bureaucratic decisions, they are children's lives. The consequences of these proposals go even further. In the small amount of information we're hearing about cuts to services designed to support families before crisis happens. The bottom line is, if you cut those services, more families will struggle and more children will enter care. And that brings me to the reality that this council cannot ignore. We already do not have enough foster carers for the children we do have. The government is trying to recruit and retain foster carers because everyone knows there's a national crisis. And yet here, in Bath and North East Somerset, you appear to be pushing the carers out of the door. So the question every council should be asking is simple. How do we retain the foster carers we do have? You support them, you respect them, you listen to them. Yet what I see happening here is the exact opposite, and it's shameful. You are dismantling the very support structures that allow foster carers to do this job safely. In this room, each of you will decide whether foster carers stay or walk away. And I want to be absolutely clear tonight. If you take away our support, foster carers will leave. I will leave. This job, and yes, I called it a job, is already one of the hardest roles anyone can take on. It's insecure, it's often unrecognised, and it cannot be done alone. And when foster carers leave, children don't just magically disappear. They end up in residential care or placed with private agencies, costing this council thousands more every single week. So this isn't just morally wrong, it's financially reckless. But before I finish, there is something else you need to know. I stand here tonight as a foster carer, yes, but I also stand here as someone who is care experienced. I lived in foster care, I lived in children's homes, and I know exactly what it's like when the system fails you. And now, as someone who has chosen to step back into the environment that still haunts her, I am watching the very same system make the same mistakes all over again. You are cutting the support. You are ignoring the people that matter. You're undermining the fragile foundations that hold this system together. So I'll leave you with this. I was a child failed by the care system. Today, I'm an adult being failed by the same system. And after 25 years, it seems this council have learnt absolutely nothing.
Thank you. Have we any factual questions? Councillor Wright.
Thank you very much for your very powerful statement. It's really important for everybody to hear this. I'm just making sure I can be heard too.
No, that's fine.
Within this restructuring process, we've been told that families and foster carers and people outside of the Baines offices have been consulted. Were you consulted in any shape or form?
Certainly not. With the 20 or 30 foster carers I've spoken to, not one was consulted, no.
So none of you have been involved in this new restructuring process and been consulted? Thank you.
Any more factual questions from group leaders? Councillor Moss.
Thank you. As a member of the Baines Foster Panel for the last 15 years, first of all, thank you for the work that you do and your fellow foster carers do. Mine's a follow-on from Joanna's question. How important do you think it is that we listen to your voice as a foster carer and as a care-experienced person in order to make the best service we possibly can?
I think it's absolutely imperative. I think without speaking to the people on the front line, the people that it affects the most, how can you possibly deliver the service that is required? Without the consultation of care-experienced people and foster carers that do that work, it is not possible to make the plans and decisions you're making. It's ludicrous that you're cutting the only support that foster carers have. It's ludicrous that you are cutting services to children that are ultimately needed. I may not have entered care if the system had been as strong as potentially it is now. I won't ever come across that scenario. However, you know, it's ludicrous that the bits that are working, there's been no consultation on it. Yes, I'm not adverse to change. I know there's system failures. I know there's things that do need to improve. However, there are certain aspects that any change must be done carefully, with consideration, with consultation of everybody. You can't just pick a system out of the air and hope it's going to work. And that is exactly what it feels like.
Many thanks, Gillian, for your comments. Okay, could we have our next... sorry, are there any more... Councillor Guy.
Thank you very much, Gillian. And I echo what Robin has said. Thank you so much for being a foster care. It's really important. You're doing an amazing job, thank you. I just wondered, would you be willing to meet senior staff and the cabinet member, because it's really important your voice is heard, and would you be willing to meet them?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Okay. Any more factual questions from group leaders? My next speaker is Georgie Brown.
So, hello. I've been a foster carer for just under 4 years. In that time, I've had 4 different supervising social workers. The child currently in my care has been with me for just under 3 years.
A little bit more, thanks.
Sorry. So the child in my care has been with me just under 3 years. He's had 5 different social workers. We keep a light-hearted tally, but recently he said something that's really stuck with me. He met his new social worker, the most recent one, and said, "Please don't leave me. The others abandoned me." So of course we reassure him, we give him reasons why they've moved on, but in reality a lot of them are agency workers whose contracts come to an end. But no amount of explanation stops a vulnerable child from feeling abandoned when the adults in their life keep changing. Every time a new social worker comes in, trust has to be rebuilt, relationships start again, and that takes time. But the reality of caring for vulnerable children continues every single day. There are good days, but there are never easy days. Yes, the system needs to change, but it needs to be careful and in a way that actually benefits the children and the people caring for them. I have been incredibly fortunate to be supported by a team that truly knows us. They don't just care about the child, they care about me, they care about my family, and they care about my wider support network. That kind of relationship takes time, it takes trust, and it depends on stability. I've had social workers call me on Sundays. They apologise. I don't have working hours, but they do. I've spoken to them while they're driving home because it's the only time they can catch up. I can hear them unlocking their front door, putting their kettle on, putting their dinner in the microwave, but they stay on the phone to support me. They know us so well, in fact many of us know when I'm struggling before I recognise it myself. That kind of relationship doesn't happen overnight, it takes time, trust and stability. And it makes me ask, who's thinking of their needs? If our social workers are not available, we often go to the manager who also knows us and knows the child. If we disagree on something, we can talk through it with people who know our situations. The level of knowledge and continuity is incredibly important. Reducing those management roles is deeply worrying because those managers pick up a huge amount of the workload and provide vital support to both carers and social workers. Many of them have taken calls from me late into the evening, well beyond their official working hours. So what happens if those roles are reduced? Does it turn to an emergency duty teams when we're just a foster carer, just a child? Because when people don't know us, we're just another case number. The staff are forced to apply for jobs they don't understand or want. They're going to leave, they're going to go to agencies, they're going to go to local authorities. If this happens, we will lose experienced, dedicated professionals, and when we lose those professionals, they leave and it impacts the children, resulting in more children saying exactly the same as my child, I've been abandoned again. That will not be because people stop caring, it will be because the system pushed them out. So I ask you to reconsider these proposed job cuts. I ask you to reconsider making staff reapply for jobs that are unclear. These are people who care deeply about the children and families they work with, who are already working beyond their official hours. If experienced staff leave because of these changes, it's the children and carers who will feel it most. We will hear more children say, I've been abandoned. You will have foster carers leaving, not because people stopped caring, but because the system pushed them out. So I ask the local authority to pause, to think carefully about these decisions, because for you, this may be restructure or a budget decision, but for the children in our care, this is about trust. It's about whether the adults in our lives stay or disappear, because stability, it's not a luxury, it's the foundation of their recovery, and once it's lost, it's incredibly hard to rebuild.
Thank you, Jodie. Are there any factual questions from group leaders? Councillor Moss.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your statement. Would you agree that the restructuring, the most important restructuring for a generation, it is important to get it right? Baines have not started well, and it would be wise to take a breath, step back, take time, start again.
Completely. Dina was leaflet dropping a couple of weeks ago at my door, and I chatted to her about an issue I have with planning. And
sorry,
I said,
you need not mention names.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I mentioned to her that I'm a proud foster carer of Baines, and I'm really proud, but right now I'm not proud. I'm absolutely really devastated the way the service is treating us and the children. My child in my care this morning said, Jodie, please can you use these chants today? Can you support us? The system needs fixing. And that's for my child.
Okay, thank you, Jodie. I have Councillor Ryden and Councillor Guy.
Thank you very much, Jodie, for your statement. My question, and also for your contribution and hard work in this really important area. My question is about foster carers. National Government want there to be 10,000 more foster carers. The process that the Council is presently undertaking to encourage that, is it going to encourage more foster carers to be in the room to support the children we need to?
Currently, at the moment, I don't think so, no. It's a hard role, and at the moment, if we carry on support and we build that support and we strengthen it, then yes. But at the moment, where there's no continuity and we're all struggling, I can't see it. The children need to be consulted, and so does the carers.
Thank you, Jodie. Councillor Guy.
Thank you, Jodie, and thank you for being a foster care. It's really a value to everyone. Would you be willing also to meet senior staff and the cabinet member to discuss these issues? I think it's really important to hear you.
I would love to. And my children, the children in our care would love to be heard too.
Absolutely, yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Jodie. That's it. We now move on to agenda item 8, which is the Avon Pension Funds. We have a mover, Councillor Toby Simon, and a seconder, Councillor George Hughes.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, Council. As Chair of the Pension Fund Committee, I'm asking Council to agree our new investment pooling arrangements and to authorise officers in consultation with myself to enter into agreements with our existing and new investment pooling companies. The Avon Pension Fund is a big business. It's £6 billion, 135,000 members, 450 employers, including all the local authorities in the area. 10 years ago, Avon and 9 other funds in the southwest set up the Brunel Pension Partnership. It's been, in our view, a considerable success, particularly in the area of developing economic, environmental, social and governance issues, what they call ESG. We've had a really strong focus on that and a strong team, and it's going to be a pity to lose it. But having that focus has led to some performance hit, and long term, Avon has been more cautious and has underperformed compared with almost all the other local government funds. The pool manages the investment, but we set the policies on advice from external consultants. Last year, government asked pools for business plans to strengthen their in-house capability, both in relation to management and to policy advice. The letter in the Council papers from April shows that the government rejected Brunel's plans. It directed us and the other funds to find new pools. Personally, I argued very strongly that we needed to operate as a coordinated group of councils, and we really ought to try to take Brunel as an entity to our new pool. I even got on the bus to go and visit one of our local neighbours to try to persuade them of that. But unfortunately, each local fund took a different view, and the end result has been a difficult process We've ended up splitting Brunel 3 ways, which means that the only option will be to dissolve Brunel later in the year. Avon Pension Fund's going to be joining 6 other Brunel funds in a group called Local Pension Partnerships Investment, which we call LPPR, with its 3 existing funds. So there'll be 9 funds, and the total funds under management will be rather more than Brunel had, at something of the order, sorry about that, of £55 billion. So a very substantial firm. LPPI has a expertise at the moment that Brunel didn't have in giving policy advice, in reviewing our investment strategy. And they've already started work on looking at our investment strategy in order to make sure that we take a less cautious approach and end up somewhere in the middle of the local government pension scheme and not in its bottom, at the bottom end. There will be costs of transition, though these can be minimised by use of complex techniques which are in hand. So we don't expect there to be significant transition costs, but there will be legal costs, and there will be costs of winding up Brunel, and there will be costs of investing what they call regulatory capital in LPPI. This is charged to the pension fund and not to the Council's General Fund. In the medium term, we are hoping for economies of scale, so this new arrangement may be cheaper in the long term. So good progress has been made against a very tight timetable. The documents are almost ready for signature, but we need specific authority from Council to finalise the deal, and that's what this paper asks for. In other words, it's like we've been buying a house, we've had a bit of a stormy time with all the professionals, but the solicitors are almost ready for us to sign, and we just need to give them authority to do so.
Thank you, Councillor Simon. The seconder is Councillor George Leach.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have much to add to Councillor Simon's very detailed explanation, other than to say we really only have a choice of one ball anyway, so I would encourage all colleagues across the chamber to vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leach. Have we got any questions from councillors? No? Okay. Now going to ask Councillor Simon to sum up, please.
Trouble the chamber further.
Many thanks indeed. We'll now go to the vote. Jo, would you announce the result, please?
Yes, that is carried. There is one person in the room who hasn't voted, so if anybody wanted to vote but didn't vote, sorry, you missed a chance. There we are. Yes, and just while the vote is still open, it's now unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, that was unanimous. We're now going on to agenda item 9, the Charitable Trust Board. Can we come to order? Thanks. The agenda item 9, Charitable Trust Board Annual Report. Mover is Councillor Sarah Warren, and I believe the seconder is Sam Kelly.
Yes, as Chair of the Charitable Trust Board, I would like to propose that Council note the annual report of the Charitable Trust Board, which reports on the annual report and accounts submitted to the Charity Commission by the Alice Park Trust Subcommittee. I would like to thank the officers for preparing the reports and accounts, and I'm sure that members of that subcommittee will wish to comment upon the excellent work recorded in that report.
Thank you. Our seconder is Councillor Sam Kelly, please.
Thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of Ollie Henman, who can't be here this evening. Thank you for sharing the clear report of the Charitable Trust Board. I'm glad to second this report. In reference to the subcommittee, it's very helpful to see that the Alice Park Trust is on a sound financial footing for the future, and it will continue to provide a wonderful space for children to play in the east of Bath. I'd like to thank all the trustees of the Alice Park Trust, including external trustees who have been very active in fundraising for the park. The funds which were secured in the last financial year have now been put to good use with the updated playground. This is a great example of partnership working with the community. I second this motion.
Many thanks indeed, Councillor Kelly. Are there any questions? Councillor Wright.
Alice Park is run separately from all other parks in Baines. It is run by the Alice Park Trust, with 5 Baines councillors on its committee and 2 independent members from the community. It is very much the role of the chair, that is myself, to oversee all the work that takes place in Alice Park. I have to deal with all uses of the park, including organising charges for use. For years, the children's play area was neglected. Under my watch, I actively ensured that the new equipment was consulted on with the community. Over 300 young people took part. Following this, I sought appropriate play equipment specialists to design and deliver appropriate play facilities, and most importantly, fundraise to pay for this play area. Last year, we succeeded in delivering the first phase at a cost of £125,000. We recently applied for SIL funding, but were unsuccessful. Alice Park Trust still needs to find another £250,000 to complete the play area, a massive task. And we will hear tonight how play is so vital to all our young people. Please also note that approximately £17,000 of our budget is just spent on facilitating toilets in the park. Our only option is to run these toilets through the Baines procurement system. As always, this park is a vibrant hub of activity that gives many people of every age a place to be, to walk their dog, undertake fitness classes, skateboard, play tennis, learn to cycle. It is a treasure, and this council should really do more to ensure that it is properly resourced. I do hope that the councillors proposing and seconding this paper will make every effort to facilitate that change. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who wish to make a statement? Okay. Councillor Warren, would you like to sum up? Go straight to the vote. Okay.
That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. We now go on to agenda item 10, which is the designation of chair and vice chair. Councillor Guy, you are proposing this.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll be brief. I thank you everybody who's put in an interest to be vice chair for next year. I believe it's a really important role, and it should be somebody with a lot of experience that's able to command respect to the chamber. And I am proposing that Councillor Stephen Shaw McCall be nominated for chair and Councillor Dina Romero for vice chair. And so move. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, could we have a seconder, please?
Formally second.
I beg your pardon, who's that? Sorry?
Councillor Moss.
Oh, Councillor Moss. Are you right in front of me?
She's coming back into the group next meeting as well.
The motion is proposed and seconded. Okay, are there any speakers? Okay, we go straight to the vote then.
I know, somebody must have looked. It's unanimous, thank you.
Okay, it's a good record. We're going on to agenda item 11, which is the Green Motion, enabling outdoor play and community belonging, and it's been moved by Saskia Helgers, and the seconder is Joanna Wright. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Play is not just something nice for children to do, it is fundamental to their development, health and well-being. As a parent of 2 children, it's something I care about a lot. We're lucky to live in a cul-de-sac quiet enough for children to play out. My kids roller skate and cycle on the street, play hide and seek and can get to a nearby green space without crossing a road. But that kind of everyday freedom is becoming rare. Children today roam far less than previous generations. Only around 1 in 4 regularly play out on their street, compared to nearly 3/4 of their grandparents' generation. There are many reasons for this: more traffic, fewer local green spaces and communities that are often less connected. And at the same time, children are spending more time on screens and social media. If we want that to change, we can't just tell children to switch off. We need to make it possible and appealing for them to play outside instead. I'd invite colleagues to think back to their own childhoods. When I was about 8, I could walk to school with friends and play across my village. I just had to be home when the church bells rang 5 times. That kind of independence used to be normal. For many children today, it simply isn't. And that matters. Outdoor play supports physical health, mental well-being and social development, gaining confidence and problem-solving skills. It also gives children independence, which is vital for their development. When children can play safely near home, parents don't have to constantly supervise or drive them elsewhere. It makes family life easier as well as healthier. And when doorstep play disappears, children from less well-off families lose out the most. As the National Play Commission put it recently, if you can't play outside your door, you can't play every day. Last week, I attended a Playing Out conference in Bristol, where parents shared how temporary play street closures have helped bring children back onto their streets and reconnect communities. The barriers to play today are largely environmental, the way our streets and neighbourhoods are designed, which means there are barriers we can do something about. Enabling outdoor play isn't the responsibility of just one part of the council. It connects public health, transport, climate, communities and education. In other words, play is everyone's business. That's why this motion proposes this work taken forward by the Policy Development and Scrutiny panels. By working together across Council, we can explore how Bath and North East Somerset can better support children to play close to home. Because when we enable play, we're not just supporting children, we're improving health, strengthening communities and investing in the well-being of the next generation. We have happily accepted the revised recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. And the seconder is Councillor Joanna Wright.
I'm very pleased to second this motion. As we've just heard, children's opportunities to play outside close to home have reduced dramatically in a single generation. Yet the environments we create through our planning decisions, our streets and our public spaces play a huge role in shaping whether children can play, explore and develop independence. This is why this motion is so important. One of the key places we shape the environments is through our local plan. The local plan determines how our neighbourhoods are designed, where green spaces are located, how streets function, and how communities are connected. If we get these decisions right, we can create places where children are able to play outside safely, access green spaces easily, and develop the everyday independence that previous generations often took for granted. But if we get them wrong, we risk building places where children's lives are largely confined indoors, or where play only happens in designated spaces, rather than being part of everyday life. Planning for play doesn't just mean providing playgrounds. It means creating neighbourhoods with welcoming public spaces, accessible green areas, safe streets, and homes located close to the places families use every day. This is why the proposed work by scrutiny panels is so valuable. By working together across both the Children's Adults Health and Wellbeing panel and the Climate Emergency and Sustainability panel, we can take a joined-up look at how policies, including those in our own local plan, can better support children's opportunities to play close to home. Because when we plan places that work well for children, we create healthier, stronger communities for everyone. I'm very pleased to second this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Are there any statements councillors would like to make? Councillor Bourne.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to first thank the Green Group for accepting the technical update to the wording of this motion. This reflects the separation between full council as a decision-making body and the scrutiny function held by the PDS panels. Council does not and should not set the work programme for panels, so it will be for them to decide whether or not they wish to add this issue to their agendas. I'm sure the panels will work together through the Chairs and Vice Chairs arrangements to agree the most suitable mechanism, whether that's through a cross-panel task group, a policy development session or a paper to the lead panel. As others have said, play is central to everything for children and young people. Health and well-being, learning, growth, making friends as well as memories. The work of many council departments touches on this theme, and I'd like to share a few examples. When you think of play, you probably think first of our amazing parks and open spaces, the perfect play setting for people of all ages. We've just opened an upgraded play park at Carlton Road in my ward, which is proving to be very popular with families. In last month's budget, we approved a rolling programme of play equipment refurbishment, as well as funding for free-to-use outdoor exercise equipment, which I suspect will be very popular with teenagers. Other examples of investment include the forthcoming new Riverline play area at Green Park, work we've done to improve play provision at sports and leisure centres, including the Puttify indoor golf facility at Bath Sports and Leisure Centre, and adventure golf and an upgraded play area at Midsummer Norton Sports Centre. Also, the redevelopment of Odd Down Sports Ground will include a new dedicated play zone designed to support unstructured active play for younger children, a cycle and scooter track for beginners, and natural play elements. Playing out is mentioned in the motion, and communities can find out about playing out road closure orders on the council website. The School Streets programme is also underway in Baines. We are investing through the holiday activities and food programme for children eligible for free school meals. But, looking at the picture as a whole, we should note that inequalities in engagement with sport and physical activity remain. Children and young people with two or more characteristics of inequality are the least active and have the lowest levels of physical literacy and wider outcomes. In thinking about this motion, I found examples of activity in many council departments, policies and plans. It would indeed be useful to bring all these threads together and look at opportunities for coordination and improvement to help more young children and young people play more of the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bourne. Councillor Jackson.
Chair, I'd like to take up the subject where the councillor left off just now, because I think it's extremely important that we have safe, secure, well-maintained play areas, as well as sort of what you might call rougher, scrub, uncut areas where they can really experience what wildflowers are like and so on. I wanted to, when I consider my childhood, running up and down the cliff at Scarborough, the cliff having subsequently fallen in the sea, but I think that's for ecological reasons, and playing in the old pillbox and quite a distance from my grandmother's home, I just think that today's parents wouldn't allow their children that freedom, and that we have another side to this coin, that we need to develop the trust and understanding of parents to let their children explore and play and risk falling off the swings and so on. And I think this is a very good structure for looking at the whole question. I do hope, though, that the councils in North East Somerset who have taken on play parks, often for very different reasons, such as they've inherited them from the Miners Welfare Trust, will be considered, because we have admirable parish council grounds, and we also have what we need to think about, the grounds which Baines gave up, and rather than see them closed down and grassed over, parish councils took up the maintenance. So what support can be given to them? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sort of echoing what Councillor Jackson just said. I'd like the Play Scrutiny Task Group to look at some of the more deprived areas in North East Somerset, where, frankly, even half the operating deficit of the Alice Park Trust would be an absolute goldmine and restore a lot of the play equipment that has been lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. I have no more speakers. Is there anyone else who would like to make a statement? If not, we'll go to the vote. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Before we go to the vote, Councillor Helges, you need to sum up for us.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to members for their thoughtful contributions to this debate. So what we've heard this evening reinforces something quite simple. Play matters. It matters for children's physical health, their mental well-being, their confidence and their social development. And as several members have highlighted, the opportunities to play close to home have changed dramatically. The important point of this motion is that many of the barriers to play today are environmental. They relate to the way our streets, spaces and neighbourhoods are designed. And that means they are things we can influence. Ultimately, this is about something simple, making sure all children in Bath and North East Somerset have the everyday opportunities to play close to home. Thank you again to members for the debate, and I look forward to us starting this work together. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to the vote.
So that's 48 for, 2 against and 1 abstention. So that's carried.
Thank you. We're now going to go on to motion 13, the Lib Dem motion on the National Planning Policy Framework. I believe Councillor Sarah Warren is proposing this and seconded by Councillor Matt McCabe.
Thank you.
Okay. We're passing over agenda item 12, which is the motion from the Labour group that is appearing on the agenda. And I'd like to make a point of order under the Constitution 3.1.37 subsection 2. I would argue that the late ruling out of this motion as being out of order is ultra vires, as it negates the mitigation that exists in the Constitution under subparagraph 2, and I would characterise it as very unreasonable under the 1948 Judicial Review. This motion was accepted by the monitoring officer on 2 separate occasions. The mitigation that appears within the Constitution is that under the 6 months rule, if a councillor has a motion ruled out of order under that rule, they can get 15 other councillors to ask for it to be reconsidered. The fact that it was ruled out of order at such a late stage meant that there wasn't the time in order to get those 15 signatories, which is why, under the 48 Judicial Review of Wednesbury Corporation, it is, I'm afraid to say, a perverse application of the constitutional rule.
Thank you, Councillor Moss. Can you remind me of your point of order again from the Constitution?
Point 1.37, the 6 months rule, subparagraph 2, that allows for mitigation. I'm arguing that the ruling out of order is ultra vires, as it was made at a late stage to actually take away that mitigation available, or remediation available in that subparagraph.
Thank you. I accept your point of order. We will now move on to the agenda item 13, which is the Lib Dem motion on National Planning Policy Framework. The mover is Councillor Sarah Warren and the seconder is Councillor Matt McCabe. Thank you.
Thank you. Our administration is firmly committed to tackling the climate emergency by providing the leadership to reduce greenhouse gas emissions across our district. All our decisions take this into account, including policy to ensure that all new houses in our area are built to meet a high net zero standard. Before I go further, I want to briefly explain what we mean by net zero. Net zero is shorthand for a building whose heating, lighting and operation is so energy efficient that its total annual carbon dioxide emissions from daily use are completely balanced by renewable energy. In response to our climate emergency declaration, Bath and North East Somerset Council adopted a local plan partial update in January 2023 requiring net zero in operation for both residential and non-residential new builds through our planning policies SCR 6 and 7. We are one of only a few councils to have implemented such a policy and have seen no adverse impact on delivery of new homes. This means homes in Baines are now built to the highest energy efficiency standards in the country, resulting in cheaper bills for residents, helping address the cost of living crisis and end fuel poverty, as well as lower carbon emissions. The UK's housing stock consists of some of the leakiest homes to heat in Europe. Setting net zero standards for new buildings means additional benefits, including reduced energy demand, which facilitates house building in areas lacking good connection to the national grid, as well as reducing the land required for renewable energy infrastructure. Homes built to higher standards have greater public support, and they provide a market for innovation in net zero construction industries, often led by our local small and medium enterprises. Proposed changes in the National Planning Policy Framework consultation, which closed last week, would curtail the current ability to require net zero standards for new homes in local plans. This policy seeks to limit standards set by councils and is an unnecessary blocker to innovations already being delivered to decarbonise the construction industry. No environmental assessment of the impact of this policy change has been published. Whilst we recognise that the upcoming Future Homes standard will improve carbon performance of new homes in many local authority districts, it does not go far enough in achieving genuinely zero carbon homes and will unnecessarily lock people into fuel poverty in future. We have demonstrated that higher standards than proposed in the NPPF could be achieved more quickly with no adverse impact on delivery of new homes. The Climate Change Committee, or CCC, the independent expert body who advises government on its response to the climate emergency, is clear that the UK will need to reach near complete decarbonisation of our building stock to meet net zero, and has repeatedly warned that the country is significantly off track in relation to national carbon reduction targets. With the government's drive to build 1.5 million homes this Parliament, it is vital that as many of these new homes as possible are built to zero carbon standards, rather than requiring them to be constructed already in need of energy efficient retrofit. Building regulations must be seen as a floor to increase standards and not a ceiling. To date, local authorities have been well placed through the planning system to support ambitious innovation, but this is proposed to end. The NPPF, as drafted, will put an end to cheap-to-heat net zero homes in England, just as Scotland and Europe are doing the opposite and requiring net zero standards for all new homes. There's no reason this cannot be done in England. We in Baines, along with many non-governmental organisations, including the Town and Country Planning Association, Friends of the Earth, as well as more than 60 other local authorities, are signatories of a letter to the Secretary of State. In it, we call upon him to rethink policy PM13 in the draft NPPF to make it clear that until building regulations universally achieve net zero new build, planning authorities may adopt standards that go further. I therefore propose this motion and request that the leader, I very much hope with the clear and unanimous support of the full Council, will write again to the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government to object in the very strongest terms to the limitations proposed to be placed upon local government ambition for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Warren. Councillor Matt McCabe, you are seconding this.
Thank you, Chair. It's extraordinary, isn't it? Here we sit in a cost of living crisis that admittedly the current government inherited. Brexit, the trust budget and COVID all sucking money out of our country and into the hands of the already wealthy, leaving us all poorer. And people are feeling it badly. So why then is the government not completely supportive of net zero construction? EPCA in all new build, an energy performance certificate rated A, near passive house standards, bringing down everyone's bills, as well as meeting our climate goals. 1.5 million new homes built to the highest environmental standards. In fact, it's worse than just not being supportive. The government has just told ambitious councils that they are not allowed to aspire to higher energy standards unilaterally. Councils are not allowed to exceed the standards set out in the new National Planning Policy Framework and Building Controls Regulations. And of course, that is EPC-C. So 1.5 million houses that at some point in the future will have to be retrofitted if we are to reach our climate targets. This all means that we, BAMES, are going to have to drop some of our new climate and nature development management policies that we've only just consulted on. We've aspired too high, it appears, according to the Labour government. And I will be at scrutiny next week to give colleagues some more detail around that. It would appear that the government has been lobbied not just by developers, but by the energy companies as well. So developers are very clear. It's biodiversity net gain, EPCA, or affordable houses. Which ones do you want, because it all costs money? And the government's message is, well, we just want affordable. The Liberal Democrats and others, of course, believe that you can and should have all three, especially if you want decent houses for the future. The energy companies have no doubt told the government that EPCA means that people will spend less money on heating their homes, which will result in a loss of profits for energy companies at a time when Rachel Reeves wants growth, growth, growth. Well, we have been building affordable homes at EPCA for some time. And I have been told face to face by industry professionals that it's not possible. And I have said, look at what this administration is doing through ACRIS. So it is now vital that we join with other councils in saying to government, look at what we are able to do. We are ambitious, and ambition drives innovation. That's how you achieve ambitious goals. You drive innovation. You can be doing what we are doing right across the country. Build homes that are fit for the future, both affordable to buy and affordable to live in. So I am happy to second this motion, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any speakers? Okay. Councillor Rigby.
Thank you, Chair. My other colleagues have mentioned specifics. I just want to focus for a minute on the principles driving this motion. I don't think many, if any of us, wanted to be a councillor to lead a rush to being purely a delivery mechanism for centralised diktats. What appears to be happening in this MPPF from the government is a one-size-fits-all centralised set of rules. I really don't have a problem at all with government setting a floor, but I fundamentally disagree with them also setting a ceiling. I don't apologise for being more ambitious for our authority, to have the right for cleanest air, for strict limits on HMOs, to building houses to the highest environmental standards that residents can actually afford to heat. If that means we want better than settling for a homogeneous set of undifferentiated rules centrally imposed, then so be it. BAMES is unique and deserves the right to have policies which embrace and amplify its uniqueness, to deliver the best for all of us who live, work and visit our wonderful area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rigby. I next have Councillor Moss.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's a really interesting motion. And I note that, that in the letter signed that's going off to the Secretary of State, to the department, that includes Labour councils as well. And there is a real discussion to be had, and a discussion about the difficult balancing act between the need to build affordable housing at the same time of making sure that housing is environmentally sustainable and affordable at the same time. And that is a complex discussion, and certainly that's a discussion that we should be having locally with the Metro Mayor and the other local authorities within the Weka area. Our problem as a Labour group with this motion is we can't have that discussion because the letter's already been signed. The horse has bolted, the parrot has died. It's gone. And I think this is a missed opportunity because we could have had that discussion and that letter goes rather than where we are now. That letter has gone and been signed, as is the right, by a cabinet member and leader. And it's a shame because it is a valid discussion, a really valid discussion about balancing those things. But we can't have that discussion because it's already gone. We're agreeing with something that's already happened.
Consultation again. Thank you, Councillor Moss. Councillor Jackson.
Chair, and to go on from that, there's a Yorkshire saying, he's so heavenly minded, he's no earthly use. And we could apply that to this motion now, because it's full of worthy sentiments, the right focus, and as Councillor Moss has said, we could have had a very good discussion if that letter hadn't been sent and the whole thing made rather redundant. But I would like to draw your attention to the fact we need houses to be built. People who are homeless are not going to worry too much about whether it's got a heat source pump. They probably, when they get a house, they're more worried about whether there's proper insulation. And what we found with some of the new builds around where I live, the joint walls, the walls between the different houses in a terrace, are too thin. And you can hear music from one end of the terrace to the other. So these are the practical concerns, and more practical is the fact we need to get houses built. And if that means a bit of a compromise, a bit of flexibility, I think that's the way to do it. We have 3,000 or more unbuilt planning consents, and I don't know if that's because the demands, the eco demands are too high or not, but we have to get our people housed in appropriate housing and not aim for the skies, if I might say so, until that's actually fully possible. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. And the last person on my list is Councillor Hale.
Thank you, Chair. Very small point, really. What I can't understand is why, when we are working towards the wonderful aims that are there, and I don't fall out with them, why are we not, through the planning process, requiring solar panels to be in some way or another built with the houses so that we don't continue to disfigure too many green fields around our green and pleasant land, fields that are lost but gaining nothing for the community other than gaining something for the investors in the system. It just seems a nonsense when you can actually get them to put what you need into the house at an early stage. And, you know, I would follow on from Councillor Jackson that there is this desperate need for social housing, which hopefully with the new plan we can fulfil, but we should never forget there are 5,000 names on the home search and that there are 1,500 names in bands A and B who absolutely have to be housed, and they will be people who probably won't bother to go to the new costume museum, which is costing 54 million, and some of that money could well be diverted to providing the houses that people need to live in. Well, shake your head as much as you like over there, but at the end of the day, you're not on a waiting list but there are 1,500 who are on a waiting list, and we're not fulfilling their need. Simple as that. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any more speakers? If not, Councillor Warren, we'll go to the summary, please, from you.
Yes, just to clarify a few points that have come up. Thank you everyone for your contributions. So we signed the group letter as it had a deadline on it, and we would have missed the opportunity to combine our voice with numerous Labour councils and NGOs, and we didn't want to miss that opportunity. But we are proposing now, following this discussion, if there is support, to write a BAINS-specific letter to the Minister, which I hope will receive cross-party support on this really important topic. Another point is that the effect of our current planning policies, SCR 6 and 7, effectively do require solar panels on houses, because in order to hit the standards of energy efficiency that we now require, they're more or less essential in those houses where it's possible to fit them. Obviously, in flats, there may be a different approach needed. So another point that has not come up all that much is biodiversity. Well, it's come up a little, which is also being hit by this proposed policy. So biodiversity net gain, which is the improvement in wild nature that can be required in the planning policy following development, is proposed in the NPPF now to be limited to just 10%, whereas some leading councils are already requiring 20%, and we in BAINS have already consulted on a policy that would have proposed to do that, and may now have to back away from that. Rachel Reeves has spoken of newts and bats as environmental red tape, but we think of them as vital components of a functioning ecosystem that is absolutely essential, in fact, to support human life on this planet. So it's not either growth or climate and nature, as government sadly sometimes seems to think. It's really important now that government, Treasury, West of England combined authorities speak with those Labour councils who have put their names to this joint letter, and really get their heads around the fact that growth will only happen in conjunction with addressing the climate and nature emergencies. So with that, I suggest we move to the vote.
Something's gone wrong. I don't know what I've done, Dave. Dave, I can't work it. What are we doing? We're abstaining.
So that's 46 for, 2 against and 1 abstention. That is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going on to agenda item 14, which is a joint motion from the Independent Group and the Conservative Group, and it's going to be moved by Councillor Sean Hughes and seconded by Councillor Tim Warren.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to bring this forward this motion on environmentally responsible campaign practices, which reflects both our declared climate emergency and our shared responsibility as elected representatives to lead by example. As a council, we have committed to reducing avoidable paper consumption and minimising our environmental impacts. Yet every election cycle we see a significant increase in printed campaign literature across Bath and North East Somerset. While long-standing, this approach generates substantial paper waste, increases the burden on recycling services and waste crews, and contributes to unnecessary litter in our communities. Even when printed on recycled paper, the production process requires considerable energy and resources, and despite progress towards hybrid methods, reliance on printed materials remains high and out of step with our environmental priorities. It's also important to remember that within the reduce, reuse and recycle hierarchy, reduce comes first. Environmental guidance is clear that preventing waste in the first place is more effective than managing it once it's already been created. And this applies directly to volumes of printed campaign material produced during election periods. The motion therefore takes a balanced and practical approach and recognises that printed materials will still have an essential role for residents who are digitally excluded and does not remove that option. Instead, it encourages all local political parties to minimise paper use and limit physical leaflet distribution. As part of this motion, group leaders are asked to write to their respective groups and local parties to actively request this reduction in printed campaign materials and to promote a more responsible, environmentally conscious campaigning practice. Digital communication now provides highly effective, efficient and targeted ways to reach residents, allowing us to modernise our engagements while reducing unnecessary waste. This motion deserves the support of the whole Council, as it is a simple, proportionate step that delivers real environmental benefits without compromising democratic engagement. Supporting it shows leadership, demonstrating to our residents that we practice what we preach and that our climate commitments apply to our own campaign behaviour as well as our policy decisions. It is fair and achievable for all political groups, modernises how we communicate and reduces avoidable strain on our recycling and cleansing services, helping to keep our communities cleaner and more sustainable. In short, this motion strengthens both our environmental credibility and our connection with our residents by adopting methods that are responsible, contemporary and reflective of how people increasingly expect to receive information. This motion is ultimately about responsibility, consistency and setting the right example. If we're serious about tackling the climate emergency, then we must be prepared to consider our own practices and make sensible, sustainable choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. And the seconder is Councillor Tim Warren.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to preempt my speech by saying this isn't National Conservative policy and I haven't spoken to anybody outside of the Council for this. In this chamber, we champion action against climate change. We've just seen that in the last motion, and rightly so. We've been paperless for probably 15 years now in this Council, and that's for good reason. We declared a climate emergency back in 2019, I think it was. I've heard often about trees being planted by this administration, who are rightly very proud of the fact. At the planning meetings, we're approving solar panels on a regular basis. When this takes out productive farming land, I find it hard to agree with this. However, I'm told by my fellow councillors and colleagues that this is necessary to try and slow climate change. Only yesterday, we approved an application for a large solar array on Greenbelt in a World Heritage setting in a conservation area in the grounds of a listed building. Quite a big deal. Listening to my colleagues on the committee, I was persuaded to vote in favour of this application, despite my misgivings on positioning. It will be interesting to see how these colleagues vote on this motion, or if they only have green credentials at heart when it suits them. But now to the motion. We talk about climate change and what we can do about it. Then we somewhat hypocritically send out paper telling residents how well we're doing. Hands up, guilty is charged. I'm as guilty as anybody else for doing this. I've probably delivered as many leaflets over the last 25 years as most of us in the chamber. During an election period, between us, we deliver multi-millions of leaflets between us. Why? Because it's the easiest way to contact residents and can actually be quite fun. Some are lovely, nice, shiny ones, and they're difficult to recycle. How many trees are cut down for these leaflets? How many tons of paper used unnecessarily? Now we have this lovely thing called social media. Very few people don't have access now. I don't actually know anyone without a phone. Can we not get ourselves into the modern age and encourage more social media and less use of paper? Planting a tree with one hand and cutting it down with the other is just not sustainable. I know this motion will probably fall, and even if not, it would be difficult to police, and I'll probably be shouted down and probably mocked, but do you know what? I'm over it. Quite used to that. If by bringing this motion to the Council we can even start to get the ball rolling in the right direction, encourage members, and I include myself in this, to use less paper, it will be worthwhile. Let's all think before we print. Let's set a good example, not the old don't do as I do, but do as I say.
Many thanks indeed, Councillor Warren. I now have Councillor Johnston on my list.
Thank you, Chair. I support environmentally responsible campaigning, but this motion isn't about that. It overstates the impact of paper, ignores the realities of digital, and risks excluding residents in the process. First, the motion says reduction is the most important stage of the waste hierarchy, which it isn't. Avoidance is. That means not creating unnecessary impact in the first place, not just shifting it somewhere less visible. Digital campaigning isn't impact-free. Every post, every advert, and message sits on energy-hungry infrastructure. Invisible doesn't mean zero. Now, to be fair, residents do get fed up with the volume of leaflets, and yes, some parties are more enthusiastic than others. I won't name names, but if I were to say dodgy bar charts, you might have a clue. So perhaps the issue isn't paper, it's how campaigning is conducted, because bad information printed on recycled paper is still bad information, and misleading content doesn't become acceptable just because it's digital. This motion treats one as the problem and ignores the other entirely. It's a bit like Donald Trump blaming wind turbines for all the bird deaths, while completely ignoring by far and away the biggest impact for birds, which is, of course, the domestic cat. We're focusing on what's visible, not what's significant. And then we land on the proposal. 2 leaflets per year. That's not good environmental policy, that's restricting communication. And it disproportionately affects those who aren't online. Older residents, digitally excluded groups, people who rely on physical information. So in trying to look green, we risk being less inclusive. But more importantly, this isn't the conversation we should be having. If we're serious about improving political campaigning, we should be talking about funding, fairness and influence. There are places now, like in Australia, Peter Malinauskas, where serious discussions are happening about removing private donations and moving towards state-funded campaigning. That's the debate we should be having. That's a debate about integrity, about transparency, and about a level playing field for everyone. This motion goes for a visible, easy target that misses the bigger, more meaningful issue. So by all means, encourage sensible use of materials and natural resources, but let's not dress this up as climate leadership, because it isn't. For those reasons, Chair, I won't be supporting this illogical and ill-informed motion.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Moss.
Thank you. Follow that, as they say. Similarly, I will not be supporting this motion for a range of reasons. 2 in particular. Firstly, the idea that the vast majority of people are online and able to access digital content, I'm afraid, is a myth. Even if it was, then which particular digital platform are we using? Are we talking Facebook? Are we talking TikTok? Are we talking Instagram? And also, quite rightly, there is a great deal of suspicion about information that is coming digitally and online, just simply because of the bad players that are out there, the malicious players out there, who are putting forward information online in a way that cannot be trusted. So I think the level of trust between what you can see online and a locally delivered leaflet is substantially different. But also, I'm not sure how, Tim, you deliver leaflets, but you did say yourself it's the easiest way to contact residents, and you're right. Leaflets are also about knocking on doors, speaking to residents as you go, and the amount of casework you pick up leafleting and spotting substantially improves your ability to act as a local councillor. I can sympathise with you, Tim, that you're running out of people to deliver leaflets, but that's not a reason to stop the rest of us going out and talking to our local residents. But it's interesting as well, just to finish up, that the policy of climate emergency Baines has a whole series of different policies, different recommendations. And I point the movers in towards the direction of Baines's Everyone Health structured policy, which is about supporting structured physical activity. And there's nothing more structured than a good set of leaflets and an instruction to go out and to deliver them. And looking around this chamber, I think there's at least 50-odd people that putting leaflets out makes a good proportion of the steps that we should and shouldn't be doing to maintain our good physical health. So for a variety of reasons, I will not be supporting this motion, not least of which it is absolutely and totally unenforceable and unrealistic.
Thank you. Councillor Biddiston.
Thank you, Chair. The most surprising thing about the debate so far is that Councillor Warren finds the activity fun. I must be doing it wrong. I think I understand where this comes from, and I think that we should be considering the amount of literature that goes out. I've been involved in by-elections and upwards of 9, 10 plus leaflets, so I think this is a consideration for all of us. I think also that there probably is a little bit of a sense of we could do with some more funding to put more leaflets out, and it's hard to see the landslide of leaflets from my colleagues, I guess. But quite seriously, we do need to consider it. I've seen leaflets recently that have included what I would describe as information that Baines Council could have been sending out, like the times of bin collections at Christmas. Does that warrant a leaflet through people's doors in quite that way? I'm not certain, duplicating the work that the Council has already done. But I think my only other consideration is I'm not sure that this Council can impose this diktat on local parties. There are parties here that we may all agree that we do need to consider the climate obligations that we have seriously and the amount of literature that we put out potentially unnecessarily. But there are parties that are going to be standing in elections that are not included in this room. So therefore, how do we dictate to them what they should be doing, and therefore are we putting ourselves at a disadvantage? I would look to your recommendation, Chair. Is Council allowed to dictate what literature and the amounts of literature that is sent out by political parties?
I think the motion has been slightly amended, if I am correct. Donna? So the motion has been slightly amended in that it doesn't it calls on members of a party to ask its party leaders and its party not to distribute X amount of leaflets, but it doesn't call on, for example, the Labour Party. So I believe the motion has been amended slightly. I've been further advised it is a request rather than mandatory. Thank you. Councillor Biddiston, have you finished your remarks? Okay. Next speaker is Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Chair. The Green Group shares the spirit behind this motion. We are, after all, a party whose entire existence is rooted in the urgent need to protect our environment and respond meaningfully to the climate and nature emergency. Nobody in this chamber is more committed to reducing unnecessary consumption than we are. However, it is precisely because of that commitment that we cannot support this motion as it stands, not because we disagree with its intentions, but because we believe it rests on assumptions that do not withstand scrutiny, and that, as a council, we should always be guided by evidence. The motion implies that digital communication is inherently more environmentally friendly than print. We would gently challenge that assumption. The environmental cost of digital is real, significant, and frequently underestimated. The manufacture of a single laptop generates hundreds of kilograms of CO2 before it is even switched on. Data centres, server farms, and the infrastructure that underpins digital communication collectively account for a growing share of global emissions. And globally, only around 17% of electronic waste is recycled, a figure that should give us pause when we consider the full life cycle of the devices we are encouraging people to rely on. A leaflet printed on recycled paper, read briefly and then recycled, may well have a lower environmental footprint than the equivalent digital communication when the full picture is taken into account. Research has shown that when a piece of content is viewed by large numbers of people, the printed version can produce significantly lower emissions than its digital equivalent, because the environmental cost of print is fixed at the point of production, whereas every digital interaction consumes energy anew. Add to that the embodied carbon in the devices we are asking people to use, and the picture becomes considerably more complex than this motion acknowledges. We are also concerned about the democratic implications of this motion. Printed materials remain a vital means of reaching residents who are digitally excluded, older people, those on low incomes and people with certain disabilities. A commitment to reducing leaflets without addressing that reality is making our democracy less accessible, not more sustainable. Those are not values this Council should be trading off against one another. Finally, we would note that electoral and party campaigning falls outside the proper remit of the Council. How political parties communicate with the public during elections is a matter for those parties and their national structures, not for local government to prescribe. However well-intentioned, this motion risks overstepping that boundary. If this Council genuinely wants to make a meaningful environmental difference, the evidence points clearly to where our collective efforts should be focused. Transport and domestic emissions combined make up 68% of Bain's territorial emissions, dwarfing everything else. Roughly a third of emissions in Bains come from electricity and gas use in domestic buildings, meaning retrofitting existing homes and decarbonising heat sources are crucial. Our vehicle fleet, our public buildings and the energy efficiency of our housing stock are where the real gains are to be made. They are the areas where this Council has genuine influence, responsibility and potential for significant impact. Debating the number of leaflets distributed at election time while those challenges remain unresolved risks giving the impression of environmental action without delivering it. The Green Group would rather spend this Council's time and energy on the measures that will make a real difference to the people of Bains and to the planet. For those reasons, we will not be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Chair. Every year in this chamber, the majority of councillors will vote to support the budget. Part of that budget setting is a percentage of finances allocated to councillors' allowances. Roughly 190,000 people live in Bath and North East Somerset. 7,000 of those residents live in Peasdown St John alone. A proportion of those residents do not read the local free weekly publication, The Journal, and a proportion will not choose to access social media. For me personally, communication is key. We need to let our residents know what we do as ward councillors. I believe paper communication is a vital part of our communication and engagement with our residents. Will Councillor Hughes be reducing the number of times he advertises in the weekly paper edition of Midsummer Norton Bastock Journal to just twice a year? Please, may I ask members to consider the Equalities Act before voting? And no one should be discriminated against. I will not be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Chair. Very interesting so far. I consider this motion quite an embarrassment for the independent Conservative groups tonight. Let me explain why. You're elected 48 months, not a couple of weeks at election time. Members must communicate with their residents on a regular basis. When I think about the real reason behind this, there needs to be some suspicion that a couple of blokes in Midsummer Norton are having a chat saying, another chap's doing a really good job down here. He continues to put the leaders out, he's putting them out, we lose our seats. Michael, you stop him.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. I didn't realise you'd come to a halt so quickly. Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Article 10 of the Equality and Human Rights Commission protects the right to hold your own opinions and to express them freely without government interference. Therefore, I feel this motion takes away that right for both me to distribute a leaflet giving residents information and the residents' right to receive that information. Some residents within the Twickenham and Whiteway ward do not have online access or are unable to access such information electronically. These people are not easily identifiable and would therefore be excluded from any updates we would provide solely online. A lot of the information distributed within our leaflets is time sensitive, and therefore providing only 2 leaflets a year would not enable that to be provided at the appropriate time. I'm not quite sure how we identify which 2 people we give those leaflets to, but that's another matter. This motion refers specifically to party political campaigning. Does this therefore not apply to independents who do not have a party to link with? What about those political groups that are not currently represented within this chamber? How would you ensure equality for all candidates that wish to stand in an election? How would you communicate this with individuals that are not members of a political party, that would like to put their name forward for election, but do not need to declare this until the election is called? My ward colleague and I write and distribute regular leaflets, with 80% of these being funded, printed and delivered by us, not our party.
Would you include this literature within the scope of this motion, as this is no different to any other non-elected, non-aligned individuals that are looking to stand in a future election? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Wright.
In the recent local by-election in Liverpool, where the Green Party won, beating the Lib Dems, the Conservatives got 8 votes. Not 8%, 8 votes. I think Councillor Tim Warren is concerned about this. The Green surge continues. Local Greens think they now have the largest political membership in Baines. Last August, the Green membership was 70,000. We now have over 215,000 members, all of whom seem happy to put leaflets through doors. People everywhere are joining the movement for real change. Want hope to feel normal again? Join us.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Guy.
Thank you, Chair. I think I've agreed with everything apart from that last bit at the end there. I just want to make the party's position very, very clear on this. Communicating to residents is fundamental to local politics, and it's a key role of all councillors. Democracy only really works when you keep in touch and inform with regular communication with your local residents. As we've already heard, local media sources have been shut down. Online channels are not a replacement. Online is rife with mis and disinformation, and of course many people are digitally excluded. Regular leaflets from your local councillor remain one of the most effective ways to reach everybody in your community. For those not online, or for those who are less engaged, receiving a leaflet is probably the main way that they know who their local representative is in the first place. And it gives the resident an opportunity to feed back their local issues and concerns back to their elected official. Therefore, it is surprising, or just a little bit disappointing, that other political parties want to lower the standards of our party to their own very poor standard of communication. Finally, let me emphasise that even if an election campaign was stacked with tons of leaflets, it would be nowhere near the amount of paper in one daily newspaper. So are the Tories and Independents proposing scrapping with the written press as well? Yeah, well, I scrap the Mail, yeah, definitely. yeah, that would start there, and the Express. So we believe, and I'm sure all progressive individuals in this room fully believe, that accessible communication with residents is part of the duty of a councillor and vital to a healthy democracy. The Liberal Democrats will not be supporting this ridiculous motion.
Thank you, Councillor Guy. Councillor Chris Warren.
Thank you, Chair. I haven't got a strong view on this one way or the other, but there definitely is a concept of leaflet fatigue. And I'd just like to point that at the by-election last January, one party put out 9 leaflets over 3 weeks. I just put out 2 by my little old self, and I won. So thank you.
And my last speaker is Councillor Jackson, unless there's anyone who wishes to speak. Certainly, this motion has generated a lot of hot air, should I say? Or so, well done, Councillor Hughes. No, we've opened the doors, Councillor Tim Warren. This should be enough. Right, okay, Councillor Jackson, the last word.
Thank you. That's a rare privilege. During the last Baines election, 7 pieces of literature came through my letterbox. All with the same galloping horses on them and bar charts, and not much else that I could read because I can't see the statutory address that has to be at the bottom of the leaflets. But still, it was very interesting comparing this flow. Just as it's interesting, the newsletters that have followed from the parliamentary representative of the Soma Valley. And that's because there's nothing in these leaflets that are coming through about the Soma Valley, about my ward, Westfield or Radstock. And so you ask yourself, it's not only what's important, what's in the leaflets, but what isn't in the leaflets. In the days when I could blithely hop from doorstep to doorstep, I did pick up a lot of casework, and Councillor Moss is absolutely right. It's about the delivering and the door knocking. Now, I find leaflets very useful to distribute on the allotments, at the school gates, on the buses. You can find ways to communicate with people who, quite frankly, are not going to be bothered to search social media. and therefore I think this is a mistaken motion, and I think we've enjoyed the debate too.
Thank you. If there are no more speakers, Councillor Hughes, would you like to sum up?
Yeah, thank you.
I'll give you 3 minutes, perhaps.
Okay, so thank you for all your comments. I mean, if nothing else, we seem to have triggered some sort of a debate. And I'm not going to respond to all of the comments. I would mention to Councillor Moss that you don't have to have a leaflet in your hands to talk to a resident. And to Councillor Guy, I would say that misinformation is not just on digital. It is also on quite a few printed leaflets that we've seen. But I just want to close by bringing this back to the simple, practical purpose of this motion. This is not about limiting democratic engagement or dictating to a national party strategy. It's about taking responsibility for what we can control locally. Specifically, volume of duplicated and unnecessary printed materials produced annually, particularly during election cycles. We have heard concerns regarding digital exclusion, but it's vital to reiterate that this motion does not remove printed communication. Residents who require physical leaflets will still receive them. We're simply asking to reduce the waste where it is possible, adhering to a fundamental environmental principle that reduce comes first. Furthermore, it's not a matter of political positioning or party manpower. It is a good faith effort to reduce waste in line with the climate emergency this council has declared. Instead of challenging national strategies, we're asking local group leaders to review our own supplementary leaflets, avoid unnecessary duplication. Many of us consistently call for practical environmental action, and this is exactly that. A tangible, achievable step that reduces waste, litter and pressure on our waste services. Our residents are not waiting for your leaflet to drop through their letterbox. They are already politically aware and often express concern about the sheer volume of unsolicited mail they receive. We have many effective alternatives, including social media and the local press, which allow for engagement without filling residents' recycling bins or adding to landfill sites. By supporting this motion, we show leadership and demonstrate to our residents that we practice what we preach regarding our climate commitments. I ask colleagues tonight to look past the politics and focus on the principle, and let's set an example to reduce unnecessary waste where we can. I'm happy to move to a vote. Well, the thing is that someone's got to keep the bones out of this, and you know, when it is a serious topic.
So that's. Can I announce the result? That's 5 for, 45 against, and 2 abstentions. So that's lost.
It's interesting to see the debate is carrying on, but I'd like it to stop now. Having engineered such debate for so many minutes and so many councillors, good to see. We're now going on to... can council come to order, please? Thank you. We're now coming on to agenda item 15, our last agenda item. We've got statements from councillors, which will be followed by factual questions. I have 4 councillors who are wishing to make a statement. My first one, again, is Councillor Sean Hughes.
Sorry, it's me again. I wish to speak to you today regarding parking charges in South Road car park in Midsummer Norton that were introduced in 2024. We now have more than a year's worth of data and experience, and it's clear that the project has failed on every possible metric. Financially, in the whole of 2025, the car park generated a paltry £8,435 in parking fees, while a significantly higher sum of £12,675 was generated through penalty notices. This means that your revenue is primarily derived from penalising our residents, often while they're attempting to use the free parking period. Furthermore, despite formal requests for information, this council claims that it does not hold data regarding the initial costs of works or even the ongoing running costs. However, it's safe to conclude that once enforcement and infrastructure costs are factored in, this scheme is running at a significant financial loss. The economic and social costs are even more severe. Since these charges were introduced, high street footfall has dropped, visiting times have reduced, local businesses have been forced to close, citing these charges as a primary factor. Surrounding residential roads and cul-de-sacs are now plagued with vehicle displacement, creating access problems for residents and emergency services. Air quality in residential areas has been negatively affected as pollution is pushed away from the car park and into streets where people live. Major local employers and amenities like the sports centre and supermarkets are now being forced to implement their own private enforcement to protect themselves from the displacement of vehicles. To compound these failures, the council has even prevented its own business tenants in Midsummer Norton from using their own parking bays. So to be clear, when we look at this, the core objectives of this policy, the result is a total failure. Income generation, failed. Support our high street economy, failed. Encourage economic growth, failed. Protect and increase footfall, failed. Support low-paid staff, failed. Improve air quality, failed. This experiment is losing the council tens of thousands of pounds that could be better spent on more important issues, like tackling isolation in our elderly, or better youth provision, or a novel idea, improving bus services to improve or reduce car dependency. It's time for some common sense. A U-turn would demonstrate a willingness to listen to the public's feedback and adapt to new evidence. I urge you to do the right thing and bring back free community car parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Are there any factual questions from group leaders? Councillor Ross, I think you're deferring to Councillor Jackson.
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your statement, Councillor Hughes. You're focused on the South Road car park in Midsummer Norton. Do you think that there is the same paradigm working out in Radstock and Keynsham, where we have the same system and the same problem of displacement?
I wouldn't know about Keynsham. I think the dynamics are slightly different in Keynsham, but I'm confident that the effect will be exactly the same in Radstock. Absolutely.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Thank you. Regarding the information you just shared with us regarding the car park, is this just something that you have decided that it's not working, or have you consulted with residents in Midsummer Norton?
I consult with business owners and residents on a regular basis. I print my phone number and details on the front of our local paper to enable residents and local businesses to contact me whenever they like. And I've received a lot of contacts. It's not a leaflet.
Councillor Tim Warren.
It's okay, Chair. Just preempting my question. I was going to ask if you sent the leaflet out.
Councillor Walker. Oh, sorry, you've had your question. Apologies. Any more questions from group leaders? Okay, thank you. I'd now like to invite Councillor Wright to speak.
Okay, thank you. In the Department for Education's statutory guidance for local authorities on applying corporate parenting principles to looked after children and care leavers, it states, 1.1, the role that councils play in looking after children is one of the most important things they do. The critical question that local authorities should ask in adopting such an approach is, would this be good enough for my child? 1.2, A strong ethos of corporate parenting means that a sense of vision and responsibility towards the children they look after and their care leavers is a priority for everyone. In January's Children's PDS, I asked questions on how the ACAS discussions would impact the morale of officers working in children's services. The Director of Children's Services replied that the majority of staff would benefit through the Being Our Best process, that she was aware that some colleagues were unhappy and that they were working to find solutions to issues raised. Today, we have strike action on this matter. In March's Children's Adult Health and Wellbeing PDS, many officers from Children's Services demonstrated outside the Guildhall before, during and after the meeting because a further new consultation to restructure children's services was being undertaken. This restructure is due to the government's new directive on improving services for looked after children, which requires a new approach to supporting our looked after children. How this council decides to implement that new directive is up for all of us. We are all corporate parents. Clearly, the 350 frontline children's services experts are deeply unhappy about the process that this council is currently pursuing. These officers have lost trust with this council. They are saying that they now feel undervalued, de-skilled and frustrated. Before the restructuring, there was an incredible amount of goodwill from these officers. Take that goodwill away and they say you will have major capacity issues. They do not understand how their caseloads, which they believe are already at unsafe levels, will be managed after this restructure. We must ask ourselves the basic question, is this restructure going to deliver a service that would be good enough for my child? Presently, it appears to me as a corporate parent that the frontline staff delivering for us are completely demoralised and disillusioned by the way Bain's senior management and the Lib Dem cabinet has decided to implement culture change. There needs to be real and meaningful consultation. All parties need to rebuild trust before any new systems are considered and implemented. It is our statutory duty as corporate parents to ensure that stability for those most vulnerable is in place. And this restructuring process must be stopped and restarted in a fairer way. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Moss, are you happy for Councillor Biddiston to defer to Councillor Biddiston?
Thank you, Chair. I've sat through more redundancy meetings with this local authority over 25 years than I care to remember. But I have never found a situation of intransigence, and I don't think
Councillor Biddiston, what is the question?
The question is going to be, will Councillor Wright, and I think she will agree with this because I think she got there right at the very end, will she agree that the process has already been admitted to be flawed, that there have been some mistakes? No blame is to blame, no blame is to be arrived from me over these things, but that will she agree that the process really ought to start again, and that it ought to start again with proper consultation with all of those involved?
Councillor Biddiston, it does need to be a factual question.
Thank you.
Mr. Guy, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your statement, Councillor Wright. You finished at the very end there, bearing in mind the senior staff are in the room now. You said a fairer consultation. What do you mean by a fairer consultation?
Outside today, I met a lady who had worked as a support worker, I don't know her exact title, for 33 years in this council and has now been sent a letter of redundancy. And the first, I can give you her name if you want to, and you will get an email from her tomorrow, so please don't say no to me at this point. I'm answering a question. A woman who had been working for this council for 33 years has been sent a letter and been told her job is no longer possible because she no longer has the right qualifications. My first question to her was, did the council offer you any retraining opportunities so that you could maintain your job? And she said no, because my job has now ended in June.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Wright. We were getting into too much detail there, but so you have stopped, so thank you for that. If there are no more factual questions, we'll now go on to Councillor Ross to make her statement.
Thank you. I want to speak today about the managed decline of our rural bus services and what it means for the communities we're here to represent. In 2023, the withdrawal of the 179 service removed a direct link from Farnborough into Bath, a journey that once took around 30 minutes. The 522 introduced with WECA Bus Service Improvement Plan funding was presented as a replacement, but routing via the Summer Valley turned that journey into one of up to 90 minutes. The 522 also serves only one part of Farnborough. The other end of the village is over a mile from the nearest stop, not walkable for older residents, people with disabilities or parents with small children. Westlink, promoted as the solution, does not serve Farnborough because the 522 is deemed as sufficient. It is a no-win situation and a degradation of service dressed up as progress. In the recent timetable adjustments, both the 522 and the 172, which serves Clutton, have faced significant cuts. On the 522, following my open letter and a student-led petition, the morning service has been partially reinstated. I want to acknowledge the role residents played in making that happen. But evening services remain reduced, and the 172 now faces similar cuts, pushing the first departure from Clutton towards Bath from 7:56 to 8:59, and moving the evening return from Bath over an hour earlier. Care workers, sixth formers, students with additional needs and people with health conditions have all told me these are not timetable adjustments. They are the removal of services that people depend on entirely. This is what managed decline looks like. Remove the most used journeys, reduce passenger numbers, cite those numbers as justification for further cuts, and eventually withdraw the service altogether. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and in teaching the next generation that public transport is not worth depending on, we store up decades of car dependency and carbon emissions that we can ill afford. I must also raise the issue of engagement, or rather the lack of it. For 3 years, I've been told by the Cabinet Project Lead responsible for sustainable rural transport that we need to have a conversation about buses. I am still waiting for that conversation. Not once have there been meaningful discussions with local councils before services have been cut. We find out when our residents do, after the decision has already been made. The Forgotten Valley Bus campaign, spearheaded by Dunkerton and Tunley Parish Council and supported by neighbouring parish councils, has put forward a detailed proposal to reinstate a revised 179 route, running hourly 7 days a week. It is a thoughtful, community-led solution, and I would urge the Cabinet member not only to support it, but to make clear to WECA the vital importance of restoring meaningful bus services to these communities. Finally, the leader of the council currently holds a deputy mayoral position at WECA and also chairs the new Transport Advisory Board. I would urge the administration to use these positions of influence to engage with fellow councillors, regardless of political affiliation, demand meaningful consultation before services are cut, and ensure that communities to the south and west of Bath are not systematically deprioritised in favour of Bristol. The evidence is there in the timetables. The question is whether we have the will to act upon it. Thank you.
Are there any factual questions from group leaders? Councillor Guy.
Thank you, Councillor Ross, for your statement. Are you aware that WECA is responsible for our bus services? And should you not be bringing this up with them?
I'm well aware that they are, but what I've been asking for the past 3 years is someone to actually take these questions to WECA, because we never get any feedback that that is actually happening other than empty words and promises from this council. Thank you.
Can we not have questions or statements across the chamber, please? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Crossley. I now have Councillor Wright.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were going to ask somebody else. Can you confirm that the leader of council is the deputy mayor of WECA?
I am to actually tell you that one, but I'm pretty sure that he is.
That was quite an easy question, actually. Next, Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Sam. I think you actually answered my question in your statement, because you mentioned the removal of services, the 522. Councillors have not been consulted, even in Peasdown St John alone. The bus has been removed without consultation, but thank you for your statement.
Okay, I'm not quite sure what the question was, Karen.
But I can answer the question. It's about Orchard Way, isn't it? And, yeah, they're being cut out.
Karen
Yeah.
answered the question in a statement, but I was confirming what she'd said.
Yeah, I think I understand. Okay. Councillor Jackson, Councillor Moss, you're happy to defer to Councillor Jackson?
Thank you, Chair. I'm a regular user of the 414 and the 424, which links Midsummer Norton, Radstock, Bar Westfield sometimes, Hayden, Ridlington, but also that then basically heads into Frome. What can be done to preserve these cross-border community bus services?
Can you state your point of order, please? Okay. I'm afraid I can't allow it, but it is definitely a question.
I'm happy to answer that question, even though I'm not the person who's responsible to do it. But I'd really like to be involved in actually helping in this situation. I think that was my point, is that it would be really good if there was more cross-party conversation about buses so that the needs of local residents across all wards could actually be taken into consideration. But currently, that doesn't occur.
Thank you very much for answering the question. Well done. Okay.
Cross-border, not cross-party.
Thank you, Chair. I know everybody's dying to get home, so I'll try and be brief. Sunday the 15th of March was a very important day for many people. It's a day celebrated across the country by thousands, namely Mothering Sunday, or Mother's Day as it's more commonly known. As I'm sure everyone in this chamber either has a mother or in many cases is a mother, you will all be aware of the significance of this day. For many families it involves a telephone call, a card, a gift, and above all the reassurance of knowing that one is in the thoughts of their children. For others, however, Mothering Sunday means much more than this. It involves getting into a car and travelling, sometimes many miles across the country, and in some cases across the world, in order to visit parents in person, often to surprise them on this important day. On Mothering Sunday, I was working in the Marshfield area. Upon finishing work, I began my journey home to Peasdown St John. Being aware that the Bath Half Marathon was taking place that weekend, I made a conscious decision to avoid the city centre and London Road, anticipating inevitable closures. Instead, I attempted to travel via Tog Hill and past Bath Racecourse, only to discover that the racecourse had been designated as a parking facility for the marathon. Traffic was extremely congested, and once I had navigated this, I continued towards Newbridge, only to find that every route was closed. I needed to cross the river in order to get home, yet this proved exceptionally difficult. Roads were closed in all directions, with no clear diversions in place. Traffic management appeared to be overseen by individuals equipped with walkie-talkies who had little to no understanding of how motorists could realistically navigate the closures. It is difficult to comprehend how a decision was made to effectively shut down the city centre of Bath in its entirety without adequate diversions, routes, or effective traffic management on such a significant day in the calendar. As a result, hundreds of people were left stranded, attempting to find a way across the river to visit parents. One such individual was Imogen, who later contacted me via email and wrote, "Dear Gavin, just to say a massive thank you for rescuing me today. You were a true gentleman and helped my day go smoothly. Much appreciated." This message was sent because, like many others, Imogen followed me in an attempt to cross the river. This required travelling back towards Western, out onto the A36, past King Edward School and Coombe and onwards towards the Wellsway. What should have been a 30-minute journey took over 2 hours, solely due to poor signage, inadequate planning and complete lack of diversion routes. I wish to be clear, this is not an attack on the Bath Half Marathon itself. I fully recognise the importance of the event and value it brings to many people. However, it raises very serious questions. Why was this event permitted to take place on Mothering Sunday? The disruption to local residents was considerable when combined with the loss of revenue to local restaurants, many of which missed out on family bookings simply because customers could not reach them. The impact becomes even more concerning. Added to this was the unnecessary stress placed on those attempting to enter the city to visit their mothers. I later spoke to Elizabeth Payne, the event Therefore, I would like to ask the following questions. Why was this event allowed to take place on Mothering Sunday? And can assurances be given that future events of this scale will not be scheduled on key dates of importance within the annual calendar?
Any factual questions from group leaders? Councillor Ross.
I'd like to refer to Councillor Rigby, please.
Well, I think there's no answer to that, actually. Councillor Moss, Councillor Jackson has raised her hand. Do you wish to defer to her? Ask a question. Well, those are the rules. Okay, those are the rules at the moment. Are there any other factual questions? If there are no more factual questions, I call the meeting to a close. It is 8:35. Thank you all very much.